Some people watch a car nearly run a red light and freeze completely. Others, in that exact same half-second, brake, adjust, and keep driving like nothing happened. Same danger, same amount of time to react, completely different experience on the inside. And here's the part that surprises most people. The calm one isn't calmer, not biologically. Their heart is pounding just as hard. Their body is flooding with the same stress chemicals. So if it's not about feeling less fear, what is it about? That question is what we're going to answer today. Because most people believe calm under pressure is a personality trait, something you either have or you don't. The lucky ones got it. Everyone else is just wired to panic. That belief is wrong. And it's actually a relief once you understand why. Let's go back to that car. 2 passengers, same near miss. One gasps, grips the seat, mind goes completely blank. The other's hands move before they even finish thinking the word brake. Afterward, one person is shaking for the next 10 minutes. The other is already back to talking about dinner plans. If you've ever wondered which one you are, you're not alone. Almost everyone has a memory like this, a moment where their brain either showed up for them or completely abandoned them. A job interview question you absolutely knew the answer to until your mind just blanked. An argument where you meant to stay composed and instead said something you regretted the moment it left your mouth. Here's the myth we need to bust first. Calm people don't feel less fear. A performer standing backstage before walking into a packed theater has a heart rate that looks almost identical to someone standing backstage in a state of pure panic. Same racing pulse, same tight chest, same flood of adrenaline. The difference isn't the feeling, it's the label the brain puts on that feeling. One brain reads the racing heart and thinks, something is wrong, I'm in danger. The other brain reads the exact same signal and thinks, I'm ready, this is fuel. That single interpretation, threat versus challenge, changes everything that happens next. Psychologists call this a stress appraisal, and it's one of the more quietly powerful ideas in the whole field because it means the sensation was never the problem. The story you told yourself about the sensation was. So why does one brain tell a different story than the other? To answer that, we need to look at what's actually happening upstairs during a crisis. Picture your brain as a control room with 2 operators. One operator is fast, emotional, and reactive. Built for one job only, survival, right now, no thinking required. The other operator is slower, more deliberate, capable of weighing options and making good decisions. Under normal conditions, they shared the wheel just fine. But the moment real or perceived danger shows up, the fast operator can shove the slow one out of the driver's seat entirely. This is sometimes called an amygdala hijack, your emotional brain physically overriding your rational brain. It's not a metaphor for weakness. It's a hardwired survival mechanism that kept our ancestors alive when the correct response to a predator was, move now, think later. The problem is that this same system fires just as hard for a tense email from your boss as it would for an actual predator. Your brain hasn't fully caught up to the fact that most modern threats aren't life or death. So the alarm goes off anyway, and if it goes off hard enough, it pushes your thinking brain completely out of the room. That's the blank mind in the interview. That's the words you can't find in the argument, not a character flaw. A misfiring alarm system doing exactly what it evolved to do, just in the wrong context. So what's different about the people who don't get hijacked, or who get hijacked and recover fast? This is where it gets genuinely interesting because the difference isn't some inner fearlessness. It's a pattern, a trained response, not a personality. Watch how emergency responders are actually trained. Pilots, ER nurses, paramedics, none of them are taught to somehow feel less afraid. They're taught to do something much more specific, narrow their focus to the next single action, not the whole crisis, not everything that could go wrong, just the next step. Check the airway, scan the instruments, make the one call in front of you right now. That narrowing is the mechanism. A chaotic, overwhelming situation full of 100 variables gets collapsed down into one manageable task, and then the next one, and then the next. The prefrontal cortex, your thinking operator, can handle one clear task even while the alarm is ringing. What it cannot handle is being asked to process the entire emergency at once. That's when it gets pushed out. This is also why slowing the breath matters so much in these moments. It's not a relaxation trick. A slower breath is a direct signal to the nervous system that the body is not in mortal danger, which makes it easier for the thinking operator to stay in the room instead of getting shoved out by the alarm. None of this requires being a different kind of person. It requires treating the racing heart as readiness instead of danger, and treating the crisis as a single next step instead of an overwhelming whole. That's learnable. That's practicable. That's not genetics. And here's why this matters even if you'll never be in a car accident or an ER. The exact same mechanism runs underneath the small pressures of ordinary life. A hard conversation with a partner, a tense moment with your boss, a deadline closing in. Your alarm system doesn't know the difference between a tiger and a difficult text message. It just knows your heart rate spiked, and it's deciding right now whether to hand control to your thinking brain or hijack it completely. The person who stays composed in a tense conversation isn't feeling less. They're doing the same quiet thing the pilot does, narrowing an overwhelming moment down into the next single thing they need to say or do, instead of trying to hold the entire conflict in their head at once. So the next time you feel that familiar spike, the tight chest, the racing pulse, the urge to either freeze or say something you'll regret, you now know what's actually happening. Two operators are fighting for the wheel, and which one wins isn't decided by who you fundamentally are. It's decided moment by moment by whether you read that signal as danger or as readiness, and whether you try to face the whole storm at once or just the next step in front of you. Calm was never the absence of fear. It was a different relationship with it. And that relationship can be built. If this topic resonated with you, I explore it much more deeply in my book, where I go further into how the brain interprets stress and how you can gradually retrain that response in your own life. If you're interested, you'll find it linked in the description. Think of the last time you froze under pressure. Looking back, what part of your brain do you think was in control? The panicked alarm or the thinking mind? What would it have taken to shift back? If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Psychology for Dummies. Every week, we explore the hidden psychology behind everyday thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, making complex ideas simple, practical, and easy to understand. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.